Hi all, Katalie here from Katalie Creates. To celebrate Tiny Home Tuesday, today I'm going to build a 5x5 home in the Selvadoradian style using only the base game and the Jungle Explorer expansion pack. So what I'm going to do during this build is create the main living space, a single person bedroom, a tiny functioning bathroom, as well as 2 outdoor patio spaces. Whenever I'm building, I don't use mods or custom content, but I do like to use move objects on, and I do a lot of shrinking and enlarging of items. Something else I like to do is place temporary lighting at the beginning of the build to get my main furniture in place. Once all of the large objects are in position, then I like to go back and hide the lighting behind cabinets, beds, mirrors in the bathroom so that it's as unobtrusive as possible in a space that's this small. And once all the large furniture and the permanent lighting has been installed, then I like to put in the decor, the flooring, interior and exterior paint jobs, play around with the foundation height, landscaping, and things like that. I've been doing a lot of 5x5 builds in the past few days to keep myself busy until Island Living comes out. And I've noticed that I use the same format for almost every kitchen in a small home, which I didn't pick up on until I was doing so many of them so close together. Lately, I've been doing a lot of base game builds and base game plus one single expansion pack, so that when you go into the gallery, you don't see that you need every single expansion pack that's ever been created in order to appreciate one 5x5 home. And I found that I set up my kitchens almost the exact same way every single time, with the fridge, the stove, one single functioning countertop, and then the overhead counters in the same style and format every time. The only thing that changes is the color or the actual countertops themselves. So for the next few builds, I'm going to try and mix that up and even see if I can do a studio style house that has a sink in both the kitchen and the bathroom. Oftentimes, expanding the kitchen means sacrificing your sitting area slash living room, which is oftentimes where my Sims are intended to eat, since I don't try and shoehorn a dining table inside the 5x5 footprint. But that is something that you can opt to put on one of the 2 outdoor living spaces in this particular build, since there is going to be a lot of space outside for that and for skill building activities that you might want to add in after the fact. I also find whenever I do a lot of these 5x5 builds that I put TVs in almost every single house, even though my own Sims, when I play them, usually don't own a TV. Instead, they have a desk and a computer in that spot and no couch. The next build that I do, I might try and change that up for the people who aren't big TV watchers but like to play video games all the time. A little bit of art imitating life there. Another thing that I like to do whenever I'm doing a build that's only the base game plus one expansion pack is go through all objects in that expansion pack, see which of them I like the best, and I'll group them together on the lawn so I can just pluck them out when I'm ready to use them in the build. And once I see what I'm left over with as that pile starts to dwindle, then I can make decisions of things that I want to delete, things that I want to swap out. One of the downsides of having a 5x5 footprint is a lot of the accent items like tables, cabinets, don't have an opportunity to get used unless you scale them down really small and affix them to the wall, because you have to allocate the majority of your footprint to things that actually function. So there are a lot of beautiful items in most expansions, but especially in Jungle Adventure that I wasn't able to use just because of how small the house is. Doing a bigger house or a build for a vacation lot, you get an opportunity to utilize all of the cast objects that they give you in each expansion, really make a fun build. Something I also had to come to terms with when I started recording these videos is that having never played The Sims 3 really puts you at a disadvantage because of the Sims 4 camera controls. I've gone back and read up on the Sims 3 camera controls, and I really wish I was better at them, because they take such beautiful pictures once you get in there and get the photos staged. But just navigating the camera naturally for me is very clunky. It's not something that's visually appealing to look at. And so unfortunately, I don't build with the Sims 3 camera, I build with the Sims 4 camera. I also didn't realize what a big clicker I was during builds until I went back and actually watched myself and realized how excruciating it can be to watch me just agonize over the choice of a door color for 27 seconds. Something else I also want to bring up in terms of tiny building, since I build all of my homes independently, as you can see before I put in any of the doorways, is I really like using open door frames going from the bedroom to the bathroom, especially since these builds are primarily intended for a single sim to live in. Having an open entryway instead of a door opens up the space, especially when you're taking photos. I also like using the open arches instead of doorways because their color schemes often match the look that I'm going for, whereas the door style, the color may match, but the style won't. I also try to be mindful whenever I'm doing a base game plus one specific expansion pack build to save money where I can on things such as the doors and the windows and other base game items to keep the price point at or below $20,000 whenever I can, so that people who don't like to use the free real estate cheat to download their homes and move their Sims in aren't forced to do that, or forced to download it, go in and delete a few things, and then have their Sims go out and purchase it. Anything to eliminate those kind of extra steps, I'm happy to do. I think when this one's completed, it comes in at about 18.5 or 18.6, which gives you a little bit of wiggle room left over once you move in. My favorite ways to play The Sims are rags to riches, homeless teen, runaway. Those kind of start with nothing but put an expensive item in your inventory to inflate your bills. Any challenge like that is my favorite way to play. So whenever I start with nothing, you don't really get the opportunity to decorate a home like this. You have to do it as it goes. So whenever I do 5x5 builds that are themed in this style, I really have a lot of fun with them since my Sims homes are never this nice when they begin. And normally I'll start my rags to riches, play them until they get the first roof over their head, and then I've lost interest. As we move on this build from furniture into decor items, something that I try to be mindful of whenever I'm placing plants or scaling down larger decorative items is that the shadow that they cast doesn't scale down with them. So oftentimes I will scale down an item, put it on an end table or a media console, and then move the camera around to take a look and see what the shadow footprint looks like. And if it casts a whole shadow over that item, I'm more likely to delete it than to keep it. I'm also more likely to delete items that don't line up with others very well. I don't like things that overlap. For example, in this bathroom, even though this mirror doesn't really scream Selvadoradian style, it doesn't overlap with the hardware on the sink, which was my primary driving choice for choosing it, even though it sits kind of awkwardly at the base of where that tile starts. Once I've added in all of the decor that I think I want to use, at that point is when I add in my flooring and the internal and external paint. But normally I will wait until that's finished to put in any art or rugs. Just kind of depends on if I already have anything already selected for that particular build style, or if I'm putting it in as an afterthought, knowing that it's going to bother me if I leave a wall empty. Once I've completed the exterior paint, only then usually will I add the roof, begin to play around with exterior architecture, and do my first pass at landscaping. The reason why I split landscaping up is because very often I will elevate my builds to have a higher foundation, and when you move the foundation first and then try and place plants next to it, oftentimes they'll float at the same level that the foundation is at. So I will place as many plants adjacent to the foundation as I can before I raise it, and then finish everything up after the fact once it's been lifted so that I don't get any weird floating plants. Sometimes I wish we could take the paint swatches and put them on the foundation instead of the decorative foundations that they provide for us, so that everything could be nice and uniform in color when you have a really bright build like this. You can also see me trying to play around with the exterior paint because of that band of tile on the bottom, and there's not an equivalent matching color with no tile at the bottom that I can put on that part of the roof, which is why I ended up going with the two-tone orange and blue. As you can see, I also like to double check what the tile for a roof is going to look like in all different stages of the day and make sure it still matches the paint and stone that I've picked out for the exterior. Because oftentimes I'll find a type of roof that I really love and think is beautiful, but it only looks good in the afternoon and looks terrible and doesn't match at all, especially at night, which is something that I really should just get over, but I won't. Not yet. As somebody who very liberally uses the enlarging and shrinking options, I also wish you could do that with windows and mirrors while still preserving the size of the window pane or the actual glass in the mirror. Or they could just give us a window that takes up one square but still has shutters. I'll accept either at this point. I'm not picky. Okay, now that the build has been completed, I am ready to get started on the external landscaping. I'll try to use the lawn brush tools to do my walkways as often as I can to keep the cost of the house down, but periodically I'll check on the price while I'm building and then make a decision if I want to have my walkway tile, in this case for example, match my outdoor living spaces, or if I want it to be still close but slightly off. Putting these shrunken plants next to the doorway is one of those times where I was worried they were floating just because I couldn't see the trunk of them. And so I am putting the foundation back to make sure that they aren't randomly floating and looking awkward, especially when you get up really close for picture mode. You can see little mistakes like that really drive me up the wall after the fact. The other day I uploaded a tiny home to the gallery and realized I hadn't put a mailbox in. So I immediately deleted it, added the mailbox, and put it back up. And right as 3 or 4 people were downloading it, I realized that I had put a mailbox in from Get Together, and it was supposed to be a build that was only using the base game and Spa Day expansion. And so I had to delete that copy again and then change out the mailbox and put another one up. So attention to detail during the build would be very helpful, as would taking my own advice. And just like that, our build is done. Now, whenever downloading, be sure that Move Objects is on before placing the lot, since the mailbox and the trash can are right on the edge. So here is our living room with door to the outdoor living space on the right. Our kitchen in the same format that I always use. Single bedroom with a nightstand. And fully functioning tiny bathroom. This lot's already been uploaded and is available for download in the gallery using my ID Caidily Creates, Caidily. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. My channel posts a new tiny home video every Tuesday. Feel free to leave a comment with an architectural style or an expansion pack you'd like to see featured in a future build. You can also see photos of my builds and my dog on both Twitter and Instagram, where I'm at Caidily Creates, Caidily. Thanks for watching.